Hi everyone, just showing this video and quite a few other links actually this one's from Navarra Media, and it was published very recently, as you can see, August the 9th 2019. Now, for some reason it appears that the British people have been bamboozled into, well, by a minority now, because it has to be said that a majority of the people who voted leave have, on learning the facts, changed their minds, because the people who voted leave were predominantly the victim of a pack of lies and propaganda, as now we've all started to realise. And the BBC were complicit by what they didn't tell us, by what they didn't inform people of, and by the very fact that they presented extremist, actually fascist, far-right rhetoric as a choice, when actually that kind of stuff is what men like my granddad fought World War II against. Okay, this kind of fascism, it isn't a political choice, it's actually an intent to commit crime against people. So, you know, when you get a Prime Minister stands up and says, well, we want to scrap human rights and we want to replace them with our Bill of Rights that nobody among the democracy has actually debated or discussed or chosen, with no debate, no discussion, a Bill of Rights created entirely by us, the Conservatives. Let's just call them for what they are. They are fascists. They are criminal fascists who want to take Britain back to the 1800s. That was Thatcher's dream. That is what Cameron repeatedly stated while he was in office: return back to Victorian Britain. So what they're saying there, remember, the snake speaks with forked tongue, okay? So what they're saying there is that we want to pretend that World War II never happened, that the people of Britain stood up once and for all and said, no, we are going to have our human rights, we are going to have our unions, we are going to have our voice in Parliament heard, we're going to have our Labour Party. We are going to have a living wage, we're going to have holidays, we're going to have breaks, we're going to have a national health service, we're going to have free education, we're going to have affordable homes, whether that be through social housing, or people being able to afford to buy their own homes. We're going to have our private British-owned businesses running alongside nationally owned industries and services. We're going to have maternity leave. Everybody is going to have a right to vote. And it's one vote, one person, one vote. These are the things that the people after World War II, after centuries of oppression from this evil criminal ruling class that had robbed us of our rights, finally the British people stood up and we said no. And push came to shove when Churchill ordered the troops to fire on the striking miners, and they refused, and that was it. He was out, because they knew a revolution was on the cards and they were facing an armed population who were trained in combat. And it's took them 70 years, just over 70 years, to finally oppress the British people to such a degree that they thought they could water us all down, you know, by mass immigration, whatever, divide the population. But no, the British people, we've stood together, you see, because our culture is a rich culture. Our society is enriched by immigration. and we stand together as one people. And now they want to rob us all. They've created this Brexit for no other reason. Get with the facts, people. No other reason than to protect their tax havens and their fraudulent banking practices and the tax breaks of these huge corporations, which the EU has brought in legislation. Why? Because they don't want another Greece. They don't want the whole of EU to become Greece. Now, a lot of British people still do not understand that this government has put into legislation all the leverage for, all the legislation for a banking bail-in, right? And it's not just for the banks, it's for the building societies as well. So we're talking about a banking and building society bail-in on the cards. Because, believe you me, there is going to be austerity like nobody ever knew when we get Boris Johnson's promised hard Brexit, which is actually a terrorist threat against the people of Britain. And after I finish speaking to you and I've shared my comment here on Navarra Medio's video, I'm just going to click through all the links, and I will leave you these links underneath, and they're all to be found in this article, the proposal for cancelling or indefinitely pausing Article 50. Okay, and I am asking people to read it. I don't care if you voted leave or if you voted to remain. What I care about are the children and people of this country, of my nation, and that I've grown up in poverty. I witnessed the changeover from being an independent nation with our own independent industries and our nationalised industries and our own, all our human rights and workers' rights and unions, okay, and social housing. I witnessed the move into the EU and the disruption that it caused. And since then, they've made us dependent now on that EU. We have no nationalised industries. Our services are all privatised. What few British remaining businesses there were have been ransacked by Cameron and Co. Okay, this is Gordon Bowden. I'm going to leave you this link. The Finchley Road fraud story tells it all. Tells it all. It's time to get informed, people. We went to school to get an education so we could learn to read for a reason. To read facts and information that are important for the future of our nation. Read. Do not tell me that you can't read. That is too much for you to read this or to read this. When your child's future depends on it. They've been asset stripping British businesses, David Cameron and Co. for decades with their fake AAA rated investments. They've stripped British pensions. They've brought us down to a level of austerity that actually Europe, they've been giving money to their populace to get them through these difficult times. But no, not in Britain. In Britain, rob from the very poorest and the most vulnerable of society. The people of this country have stood by and watched disabled people be left penniless and homeless and destitute, driven to suicide. The people of this country have stood by and watched 130,000 people dead by an economic policy that wasn't even necessary. Britain is one of the richest countries on this planet. And they're doing that to their own people. Why? Because they're scared. Because the only way to oppress a population and have full control of them and deny them all their rights is to drive them into poverty. It's very simple. Once you're a poor person, you've got no rights. You can't afford a lawyer. The only lawyers out there for British people now are no win, no fee, isn't it? And they're ready to take half of whatever you actually win. Where is it really a win when you've been injured and you're fighting for compensation, is that a win? And then you have to give half of it to the law firm that's representing you because there's no legal aid and you have no rights because you're poor. Well, it's a simple matter to make everybody poorer, isn't it? And that is exactly what Brexit will do. And then when the economy's totally crashed because the pound's going to be slashed, expect the pound to drop to 50p. To the value of 50p. Okay, that means everybody's wages have been cut in half. And at a time where everything we buy right now at subsidised rate from being within the EU market is going to quadruple, double, if not quadruple in price. And people still do not understand. They still have this strange idea that we can just go out there and start all these trade deals with all these other countries now we're out of the EU. Because for some reason, the BBC and Nigel Farage's propaganda has gone so deep into their brains that they cannot understand that being part of the EU means having the advantage and benefit of trade deals with 161 countries on this planet. And a very good trade deal at that, because the EU is a massive market. Yes, 30% of our food we get directly from EU nations. Most of the remainder we get from other nations through the trade deals we have with the EU. Understand this, people, please, because we're talking about the food on your children's plates. We're talking about the medicines that you rely on. We're talking about our NHS, and we're talking about Britain breaking up because Scotland will leave Britain and stay with the EU because they're not stupid. And the same for the people of Northern Ireland. So we're going to be left with England and Wales governed by what? A set of criminal fascists. And then they'll bring in their banking and building society bailing. And then they'll mop up whatever remaining wealth there was among the masses. Because I tell you now, a building society bailing, expect a letter on your door saying we now own 50% of your home. Seriously, people, this Brexit is an act of terror from a terrorist government that has murdered 130,000 people. Now, I'm very upset about it. I'm not just angry, I am outraged. And anybody with a modicum of humanity in them who has a care for the children's future should feel the same, in exactly the same way that Theresa May was outraged over what now transpires to be the fake Russian nerve gas attack. Nerve agent attack. 23 Russian diplomats instantly expelled from the nation. She's not going to tolerate a threat against the lives of British citizens. Really? Well, neither am I, Theresa May, and I'm ready for booting the lot of you out. And this is my comment here. Brexit is a coup and democracy is dead. Not a single party is prepared to stop a no-deal Brexit or give us a second referendum. All of them are traitors, willing to watch our nation literally fall apart and people left without food, medicines, jobs, rights. Seriously, imagine Americans voting for their United States to break up into separate countries and for their dollar to be halved in value, slashing every wage while prices for everything double if not quadruple. Come on. Crazy is crazy is crazy. If we're going to leave the EU, then it needs to be for a better life and not for a fucking abject poverty under rule of criminals who want to strip us of all our rights and shove toxic USA food down our throats in return for giving Trump our NHS. Time for an Iceland with knobs on. Check the facts, people. And I've left the link to the proposal here. So now, we're just going to go through some of the links that I've shared in this proposal. Here we go. Brexit Britain, trade deal with Trump, goodbye NHS, hello financial crisis. Okay, I'm not going to read you them all. US wants access to NHS in post-Brexit deal, says Trump ally. Okay. Donald Trump's ambassador urges Britain to ditch EU's traditionalist food standards. Traditionalists! They want to feed us chlorinated chicken and hormone-injected beef and Monsanto poisoned whatever. Half the stuff that comes from America, the foodstuffs, it's full of lead. The Tories have voted that animals can't feel pain as part of the EU bill marking the beginning of our anti-science Brexit. Yeah, let's remove all the legislations to protect animals.
1997,
We'll have to turn that off. So here we have, you know, David Cameron threatens to quit the EU over presidential row. Look, this is in 2014. Why? Why was he threatening to quit the EU? Why? Who is he to threaten to quit the EU? And put people's lives and jobs on the line? Who is he? Does being a Prime Minister of Britain give him the right to be Emperor and decide for all of us? Is that a democracy, that some idiot gets into power and that's it? He can wreak havoc on our nation, murder people with an economic policy. Is that democracy? Is that why my men like my granddad gave their life? Is that why I never met my granddad? So that he could come in and take away all the rights that he fought for? David Cameron arrives in US as Tory row of EU referendum continues. You see, this is a plot. Look, May 13th, 2013. He was there already, planning it already. And people think, we voted for Brexit. Please, please, please. A pack of lies and hot air propaganda. And xenophobia does not equate to a democratic choice in a democratic nation. Here we go. Here they are, meeting up because they want to stop the real reason why Farage and Rees-Mogg want a speedy Brexit. Yes, EU's forthcoming anti-tax avoidance rules could be a big boost for our public services, but as Siobhan Ilangarante and Damit Alatiue explained, they will be binned if Farage and Rees-Mogg get their way. Yes, there they are, laughing all the way to the bank. Yeah, let's get Britain back. You know, I've just had to leave a Facebook group. It's called the British Constitution Group. You know, basically, what? People there, Brexit, we want Brexit, we want Brexit. You ask them, well, how is it going to give me a better life? What is it going to do for me? But what is it going to do for them? Oh, yeah, let's bring back blood sports. Animals can't feel pain. Save us, save our tax havens. Save our tax havens. EU corporate tax avoidance rules come into force. European Union members will step up the fight against corporate tax avoidance this year as rules to close loopholes in the system come into force. Yes, but there's a great big loophole hanging over our heads, British people. Not from Brussels, from our own government, with its banking and building society bail-in that will be coming. Mark my words, and they will have their Victorian Britain. We will be back to the 80% living on, below or just above the poverty line. EU rules eliminate tax loopholes come into effect. When was that? Look, see, you know, this is what it was all about. That's why they were planning it from 2013. As soon as they got wind of this, they were there. We are terrified for the future, says young people, as Brexit crunch talks fail. I mean, you're talking absolute mayhem. You're talking, you know, they're talking about rationing. They're talking about bringing 3,000 troops into central London. Why? What do they need 3,000 troops in central London for? Because they know damn well people are going to go crazy. There's going to be an outrage. But I tell you what we'll be facing then. We'll be facing the bombs, we'll be facing the water cannon, the tear gas and rubber bullets. Well, I'll tell you something. I'd rather face them fighting to keep what we have rather than face them when they've robbed us of everything that we have, because possession is 9/10 of the law. And remember that, people. We are better to stand up and fight for our rights, to protect and defend our rights, than ever we will be to face all of that when we have lost them. Possession, 9/10 of the law. We still have our rights and we need to stand up and fight for them and stop this Brexit. Now, I'm not saying that I'm totally in love with the EU. I know that the EU is as corrupt as every other power on this planet. But at the moment, it's putting food on the children's plates, safe, healthy, clean food. It's providing jobs. It's giving us our medicines. And it's up to us to change things from within. Or, if we're going to leave, make sure that we can stand on our own 2 feet. You do not pull a country, remove their food and medicine supply, leave them with nothing, and put them in a war zone situation. We've got this. Racism. Anti-Muslims. Anti-this. Anti-Jew. Sorry. This has gone worse since Brexit. But, you know, it really does amaze me that the British people actually are more angry and more upset about the fact that we've got Muslims living in Britain or people from Europe, okay, than they are about what's happening to British citizens. About 130,000 of us being murdered by an economic policy. It seems that is perfectly acceptable. So, you know, so what is the fear of all these immigrants then, these Muslims? I thought they were coming in to, like, kill us all with their terrorism and fanaticism. Oh, that we don't want. We don't want to be murdered by foreigners, do it? But we're quite happy to be murdered by our own government. That's okay. That's okay. When actually the people coming into Britain are coming here to work, to give something, to give of their time, their labour, their life, their love, their children. The real threat, the real murderers, the real killers are this government. They are terrorists. According to EU law, they are terrorists. And it is explained very clearly in the proposal for cancelling Article 50, and that is one of the grounds of law, because this is a terrorist government. And they all belong in jail. Okay? Why is it that people of Britain are prepared to stand and watch homeless people who have been driven to destitution directly through this government's economic policy, that it's all right to arrest them, find them, and lock them up in prison, but meanwhile, David Cameron and his mob can get away with the level of crimes that has been committed here. And we're talking about people being stripped of their pensions. Absolutely stripped. And I know these people, I know some of these people personally, who have lost everything. From the kind of shenanigans that David Cameron is directly involved in, and all his cronies, all these banking elites that themselves want Brexit. Brexit is for nobody except sovereignty for the City of London. That is it. Right? So don't come to me, you Brexiteers. Sovereignty. There is no sovereignty if I have not got my human rights. And if I have to watch my fellow citizens be driven to suicide, be driven to ill health, to witness them losing their homes, their jobs, their pensions, the food on their plate. They're going to have everybody, the whole nation's going to be queuing up outside a food bank because they've asked councils. They're asking councils to stock up on food. Theresa May refuses 8 times to rule out scrapping vital workers' rights after Brexit. And I'm supposed to be the enemy. I'm the enemy of the people because I'm standing up for the rights that men like my grandfather gave their lives for. Conservative nostalgia for the Victorian era is dangerous because that is, you know, and look, this is from 2011. They were going, the government's promotion of Victorian values could destroy the summation of the era's reforming spirit, the welfare state. Of course, that's what it is about. This is an attack. The Tories are attacking. They are destroying, finally, everything that the people of post-World War II stood up and fought for. And that is why I am moved to make this video, to share the information, to get it through to people. Look, this isn't an egotistical win or lose. Oh, we won, you lost. This is about reality and the future of our nation. And the fact is, you know, people who think it's going to stop immigration, I'm sorry, corporate immigration, the Tories have already set this up. The corporations can bring in as many immigrants as they want to work in their privatised services, their privatised industries that are here in Britain. Corporations like DynCorp, a military outfit that works for governments to keep the peace. Well, where are their troops going to be coming from? From fighting in the Middle East to battling down protesters in Britain? No, people, please, get alert, get awake, get active. And I say do in Iceland, right? Because we are every bit as united as the people of Iceland, the people of Britain. I have faith in you. I have faith in us. I have faith in our strength of mind, that even if the people who did vote leave, you understand the concept of we made a mistake, the concept of being forgiven, the concept of then doing what is right, and we all need to do what's right now. And like I say, maybe we can leave the EU at some stage, but maybe we ought to work towards that first, just the same way that the Tories by stealth have been working towards breaking away all our rights to make us dependent on the EU while they trash all our industries. Nobody notices. Everybody's getting the food, the cheap clothing. Nobody notices. Then suddenly, bang, you're out of the EU and you're back in Victorian Britain. Sorry, David Cameron and co. You people are going to jail. We need to put them in jail, because I tell you now, if you can put the homeless beggar in the street in jail, you can put every single one of these criminal financiers in jail. And Brexit will not help us do it. Okay? So, you know, this is a warning, people. It's a wake-up call. And I tell you now, I am getting a bit sick of these quiet little voices sat here telling us what's going to happen, what's happening. I'm sorry, this is a serious threat. This is a terrorist threat. This is exactly the same as Theresa May expressing all her outrage about the fake Russian nerve agent attack in Britain. Okay, this is the same as the rage against 9/11. Okay, this rage is against the criminals of government and Labour and Liberals. You people, you are out. Because I tell you now, if there is no party here that is going to stand up for the rights of British people and demand an instant general election and an instant second referendum to end this Brexit madness, then none of you are worth the paper your names are written on, and every single one of you in Parliament right now are traitors. And indeed, I would say that you are all complicit in the murder of 130,000 British citizens that none of you, not a single one of you, have left your seat in disgust. So my love goes out to the people of Britain, and as I say, I don't care which way you voted. I do not judge people. I understand what goes on in this world, but I tell you now, stand up and do what is right, because we are about to lose everything.